back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys a whole lot for subscribing to my YouTube channel. So if you are new, this is the first time of you coming across this channel, Stylish Naija YouTube channel, please, I would appreciate if you hit on the subscribe button on the side and then also hit on the bell to get notification whenever I upload a new video. You can also follow me on Instagram at Stylish Naija, Facebook Stylish Naija, and Pinterest Stylish Naija. All of these platforms, I normally share notifications of my videos also, so you can get notified on these platforms also. Okay, so let's just get started with today's tutorial. Today I'm just so excited. I really came across this dress and I love the dress, so I decided to cut and sew this dress and then share it with you, all of my subscribers and the new people that are coming into this family. Okay, so I'm going to be naming it, and this dress is actually a Dolman handkerchief flare dress. So you could see it is a trendy style, so I'm going to show you how to actually cut and sew it today, and it is really simple and easy. Even as a beginner, you'll be able to pull this off. Yeah, I guarantee you that you should be after watching this tutorial. So let's get started. The fabrics that I have here that I'm going to be using, I have this Ankara fabric. The picture up there you see is a plain fabric that was actually used, like a satin or a crepe. You can actually use that also, but mine, I'm going to be making use of an Ankara fabric. And here, this is an Ankara, it is an African print. So I have 3 yards of fabric here. That's what I'm going to use to sew this dress. It's very simple and easy. So let's just get started. I'm going to fold my fabric and then I'll explain how I did the fold for easy understanding. Okay, so I folded my fabrics into 4. So I cut out the back piece. This is the back piece and then this is the front piece. So here is how I did the cutting. So I used my sleeve measurement. So this is the center. So this is going to be my across back measurement because it is a dolman, so it is a cut together sleeves. So what you are going to do is the length of the sleeve, that's what you will use to fold your fabric. So the length of the sleeve that I want my sleeve to get to about this point, which is about 18 inches. So you are just going to put your tape on the center of your back. That's the neckline, that's the center of your back neckline towards the spinal cord, and then you measure it from that back point to where you want your sleeve to be. So that's what I used in cutting out my fabric. It is folded into 2. So for this is the front piece, is about 19 inches, and then the back piece is 1 inch bigger than the 1.5 inch bigger than the front one. This is the back because I'm going to add a zipper inside because it is not a stretchy fabric, so I'll add a zipper to it. So that is how I folded the fabric. And then the next thing, I used the length of my dress. That's the half cut of this gown. So the half cut that I'm making use of about 18 inches, between 17 and 18. So this is 17 inches now for my half length. This is the 17 inches that I'm using for my half length, and then this is my bust point, which is 10 inches. So these are like the 2 basic measurements that I'm going to use. So for this part, this is where I'm going to be adding my neckline measurement and then my sleeve measurement. So the next thing, I just want you to pay attention. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out the neckline. So for the neckline, if you notice, it is like a straight neckline. We're actually not cutting out anything from the neckline. So here's what I'm going to do, is like a boat neckline. I'm going to take my tape like this. This is the center front, and then I'm going to measure. For this, you are going to determine how wide you actually want your neckline to be. So for this, I'm going to use about 5 inches or 5.5. Okay, you could actually measure to see how deep it's going to be. So I'm going to use, let me use 5 inches because after sewing and turning, because I'm going to turn it with a bias binding, it might open up more. So I'm going to use 5 inches, that's the width. Or you could do 5.5 actually. 5 inches is okay for me. So this is like my 5 inches. So this is where the neckline is going to be. I'm not adding anything, and then I'm not subtracting anything. So from this point like this, I'm going to come to this point. I'm going to mark out 1 inch, and then I'm going to slope my shoulder to create my shoulder slope. Let it enter into the neckline part. So I'll cut that out first. you see how it is. So I've cut that out now. So like I said, the neckline, if you want it to be wider, you can actually go as much as you want. The next thing I'm going to do now, so on this point, I'm just going to put a notch here to know where I'm going to stop, where I'm going to close my shoulder from. So I'll just put a notch like this. So the next thing, I'm going to create my sleeve opening. So for the sleeve, I'm going to use about 8 inches for my sleeve opening. So that's my round sleeve, which is 16. You divide it into 2, you have 8 inches. So this is 8 inches. So from this 8 inches, here's what I'm going to do. This is my waist and my bust line. So for the bust line, so I've marked this here. So for my bust, I'm going to use 40 inches for my bust, because you see it is not a fitted dress. So my regular bust is 36, but I'm using 40 inches. So from this point like this, I'm just going to mark 10 inches. When you divide 40 into 4, and then I'm going to add about 1 or 2 inches allowance. So from this point like this, I'm just going to blend this into this point. I'm just going to blend it into this point like this, and then I'll come to the waistline measurement. So for the waistline height, I'm just going to use 9 inches, which is 36 inches. So I'm going to add my allowance. I'll add 1 inch or 2 inches allowance, because I'm going to take out that. So I'll add 1 inch allowance, and then add another 1 inch that I'm going to use to take out the waist dart. So from this point, I'm just going to mark it like this, just blend it into that part like this. So this, and then come to this point like this, and then you mark your dart. So for the dart, I'll use half of my bust palm measurement, which is 4.5. So I'll just mark it like this. So on this part, I'm going to add that to it. So this part, I'm just going to cut out. It is very simple and easy. Just cut it out like this. So you see what I have. I'm just trimming it, let it be equal with the back and the front. So we are literally done with this. So the next thing, I'm going to just take it back to my machine now. I'm going to stitch the shoulder line and then hold my dart, and then I'll open up for my back piece. I'll open it up. I'm going to add a zipper on it, but this zipper that I'm going to add, I'm not going to start the zipper from the back because of the neckline. So for that back piece, I'm still going to put a notch here. So my neckline, for the back neckline, my zipper is actually going to start from, it's going to be an inner zipper, so I can start it from anywhere just to have a little space. I'm going to add the zipper, so I'm going to stitch it close and then add the zipper inside. I'll show you. So I'll just open up here and then show you how we'll go and stitch it and then come back. So like I said, the neckline, if you want it to be wider, you can actually make it 6 inches or 7 inches. So I'll turn this now. Just what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to turn this with a bias binding like this. So you see the notch that I added, you just fold the neckline. You can decide to just fold it like that if you are going to turn with your lining better. So mine, I think I'm going to use a lining to turn it out, so it will make it very neat and clean for me. So I'll cut out the lining, and then I'll just cut out the lining and then sew everything together and turn. Okay, so I finished turning with my lining. So I'm going to explain to you what I did. So I cut, like I told you, since I was lining it, I don't need to use a bias and binding on the neckline. So I just cut out the same exact way I used my fabric to cut out the lining. So this is what I did. So on the side, because the sleeve part, that's my sleeve opening, I'm going to be turning it with a turn up. So I did not sew on this side. So if you are not going to be turning it, you can just decide to sew it and then turn everything. So you see I stitched the side like this, and then the shoulder line part I did not stitch. You see it is open, and then the neckline point like this, from that point that I added that notch, I just stitched it down. I used about half inch to stitch it. So if you want it deeper, you can decide to come down a little bit by maybe about 1 inch and then just stitch it straight or curve it. Just depends on how. But if I did not cut out any piece from the neckline. So if you want, you can still cut out so you can see what I have. So like I said, if you want your neckline to be wider, you can actually decide to add more. So when I was stitching it, I found that, initially I used 5 inches. I found that it was looking a little bit smaller, so I added 1 more inch. So at the end of the day, now this is 6 inches. That's what I have now for my neckline, 6 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just for me to add my dart. So I already added my notch on my dart line, so I will just add my waist dart. I'll use about 6 inches. I'm going to stitch it up to those points like this for my waist dart. So that's for the front piece. And then to join and the back and the front together, I'll take it and then go and join. So in joining it, I'm going to take this piece like this. I'll place it here. So you see the neckline on this point like this. I'm going to place it here like this. That's why the notches are very important. So I'll place it here like this, and then I'm going to sew this point like this. That's from this point to this end I will stitch. And then I'll take this piece also, I'll place it like this, making sure that the neckline aligns on this side. I'll place it like this, and then on this part also I'm going to stitch from this side like this to this end, and then I will stitch the side of my dress. So in stitching the side, I'm just going to use half of an inch or quarter of an inch, just stitch like this to this point and then stitch this point. So I'll do that now and then come back and cut out the handkerchief part of our flare for us to see. Okay, so I've finished joining my top bodies together. So you see how it is looking like now. So you see the neck. Okay, and there's a little adjustment that I did on the neckline. When I tried it, I found that it was too high, so I had to come down. So if you see the front neckline, I had to come down by 2 inches for the front neckline. So when cutting the front neckline, you're just going to deepen it by 2 inches. You can decide to leave it that way, but that one was too high for me, so I had to just reduce it. So that's just like the adjustment that I added to the neckline. Every other thing is okay. So the next thing that we're going to do now, we're going to cut the down part. That's the handkerchief flare. And the full length of the flare that I want to cut, that's the actual length of my dress, is 40 inches. So when I minus 17 inches from my 40 inches, what I'm going to have 23 inches. So for this handkerchief flare now, I have 2 sides, the short side and then the long side. The short side is actually the length of the dress. So I want you to note the short side is the length of my dress, which is 40 inches minus 17, that will give me 23. So the short part of this dress is going to be 23 inches, and then the long part, you can decide to the drop on the handkerchief. You can decide to add as much as 5 inches or 10 inches, depends on how long you want the drop to be. So for mine, I think I'm going to add about 10 inches to mine. So the drop part of my dress is going to be 30. I have 23 here, so if I add 10 inches to it, I'm going to have about 33 inches. That's the 4 edges. So I'm going to explain that now, even as I go along. Okay, so now if you notice, I have my fabric laid out. So I decided to mix this dress. That's the Ankara fabric. I decided to mix it with another Ankara. So here's what I did. I added 10 inches to the 4 edges of my original fabric. So I just want you to note the reason why I did it, because I want it to drop. If I had used the regular fabric that I had, it will not drop to the points I want it to drop. That's the handkerchief part. So I now decided to the 4 edges. If you notice, I added Ankara around the 4 edges, and the amount of Ankara that I added is 10 inches. So you could see it's just around the square area. So now we're going to cut, and like I said, it is really simple for you to cut this handkerchief flare. Here's what you are going to do. So like I said, the short part we're going to cut 23 inches, and then the long part is going to be 33 inches. So now the first thing we're going to look for now is the radius of our circle. That's the round part. So I've done so many videos on how to actually calculate this. So for this now, what we are going to do, I'm going to use my waist measurement. I'm using 34 inches. Okay, so to calculate the radius of my circle, so that's how much I'm going to open on this part. The 34, which is the waist measurement, this waist measurement, I'm going to add the 2 inches for my allowance to it. So when I add my allowance to it, that zipper allowance, I have 36. So you divide 36 by 6.28. I'm going to have 5.7. So I'm just going to come to this point like this and then measure my 5.7, and then I'll just measure it round, and then I have my round radius of my circle. So I have a more detailed video how to actually open up this point. I'm going to drop it for you. So the next thing now, let's concentrate now on the handkerchief part. So like I told you, I said the short part of my dress is 23 inches. So after marking out my waist measurement, so this is the waist of my dress, I'm going to come to this part. This part is, if you see from the fold on the table, you find out that this is the shortest part of the dress, because when you fold into square like this, is like a rectangle. This is the shortest part. So on this shortest part, I want you to note, you see it is folded into two, this part. So I'm going to mark the 23. I'm just going to put my tape like this. I will mark the 23 inches that I want. This is 23 inches. That's the length of my dress. So I have 1 inch allowance here. I'm going to add it to it. So from this point like this, I'm going to come down. You remember I told you that the longer part of my dress, and that's the drop of the handkerchief, I'm going to make it 33 inches. I'm adding extra 10 inches. So here's what you will do. You place your tape on this point like this, and then you mark the 33 inches. So this part is going to be the drop part. This is going to be the longer part. So you see it like this. So I've marked on the 33 inches on this part like this. Okay, so on this other side, I'm going to mark the same 23, just like on the shorter part. That's this first part. I will measure the short side of the dress. I'll repeat the 23 on this side. Okay, so I think for better understanding, let me explain this on a pattern paper to give more clarity. Okay, so now I'm going to use a pattern paper to explain this. So this is our pattern paper, just like our fabric is folded into 4. So you fold it like this. So this is the shorter part, and then this is the long part. So here's what we are going to do. I'm just going to round. This is like our waist measurement. And then the next thing I'm going to do now, this is the shorter part of my flace. So this is 7.5. On our fabric, we're actually using 23 inches, note, but here on our pattern is 7.5. And then this long part here, I'm going to mark about 10 inches or 10.5 inch. Okay, let's do 11 inches on our pattern paper. And on our fabric, that's the 33 inches. That's the long part, that is 33 inches. And then I'll rule it like this. Just connect them like this. So the next thing you are going to do now, this measurement that you have here, you are going to repeat it on this side. So on our fabric, we're using 23 inches. I want you to note. So I'll mark it here like this. So from this point like this, I'm just going to take my ruler, and then I'm going to slant it to this point like this. So it is very simple and very easy. So I'll mark it like this. All I'm going to do now, I'm just going to cut it out like this. And then you cut out this part, and then you open up. When you open up, it's going to look like this, and then you are going to open it up like this. You are going to take one part that you are going to use for your zipper allowance, and then you are just going to turn it like this. So when you turn it like this, at the end of the day, this is how it's going to look like. So you see, and this part now, this is the longer part of our. So I'm just trying to arrange it properly. This is the longer part, and then this is the shorter part. So you have 4 long parts, and then you have 4 short parts. So I hope you understand how to actually cut this. So I'm going to continue with the fabric now. So I'm going to cut out this part now. So you see, after cutting out, you just open it up like this. So here is what you are going to do. This is the short part of our handkerchief. So what you are going to do now, on this short part, You can decide to put notches. That's another very simple way of doing this. So these four edges like this, just put notches around the four edges. So what you are going to do when you open up like this, so this was how it was folded when we did our cut. You open it up. This is the short part. So you open it up like this. When you open it up like this, now you have opened it up. Here is what you are going to do. You are going to take this short part like this, and then you are going to turn it. Let this short part, let it come, either go to the front or to the back because of the knot. So you are going to just open this up like this. It is a little bit confusing, but just you can actually practice it with a piece of paper. You can use a piece of paper to practice it. So you open it up like this. So because of the notch on the center, so you are going to know how it is going to be. So you see it now. You see our handkerchief. So you just open it up and then you see how it is looking. So I'm going to, now the next thing I'm going to do now, on this notch now, that's where my zipper allowance is going to be. So I'm going to open up straight like this down, and then I'm going to fix. So you see the four drop of my handkerchief now on this side. It is dropping on the four edges, while this part is the short part of my dress. So I hope you understand it. So I have another video of it. I'm still going to drop the link to give you more clarity. So I'll just open up now, and then so you can choose any part. So I think I'll open up on the, yeah, let me open on this side. So you get the center properly, making sure that everything is sitting nicely before you open on the zipper allowance point. So that's the part where I'm going to open. So this is where I'm going to start fixing on my center piece. So this is the center of my dress. So I'm just going to open this part a little bit, and then you can actually use a seam ripper to do that. So I'll just join it like this, and then I will put a notch here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the right side. I'm going to place it like this on this right side also. And it's very simple. So I'm just going to go and stitch it straight down to this side, and then straight down to this side. And then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I finished fixing my dress. So I fixed it on. So you see my label. I actually don't want to take it off, because if I take it off now, this portion of this dress is going to get dirty. So once I'm done, when I'm ironing, that's when I'll take it off. So I've joined together, so it's looking beautiful. So when I was joining this back point, you make sure let it correspond. So that's what actually gives your job a nice look. It's not like one will be here and then the other one will be here. It does not make it look unprofessional. And then your zipper allowance part also, make sure it corresponds. And then on the neck part, so these are the things that you should always look out for. Okay, so for the sleeves, here's what I'm going to do. So I cut out 2 inches of fabric, so it's folded into 2, so just to turn up my sleeve. So this is the center part of my sleeve. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come, like this. This is the wrong side of the center piece. I'm going to stitch this here like this. I'm going to just stitch it around. So you use the length, that's the width of your round sleeve. So that's what you are going to use to cut out. That will be the length of the fabric that you will cut out, but the width I use 2 inches. So you can make it as big as you want. So you see what I'm doing, just stitch it around like this. So you see how I'm stitching it, and then after stitching, it's very simple. You're just going to turn it up like this. So you just bring it up to the right side, and then you fold, you would iron this and then you stitch this part down. So at the end of the day, this is how it's going to be looking. It's going to have a turn up, and then inside part is clean, and then this part is hidden inside. So I'm just going to go and do that, and then I'll place this dress on my mannequin for you to see. And then the down part, I'm just going to hem it. I'll just roll fold it round, and then the dress is done, and then I'll fix my zipper at the back. So initially the zipper, I actually wanted to fix an inner zipper, but I think I will just run my zipper straight from up down. Okay, so thank you so much. You see the dress on the mannequin next. Okay, so at the end of the day, so you could see how our dolman dress is looking, our dolman handkerchief flare. So at the end, I just made a sash to tie around the waist. You can decide to use a normal belt. So you see, my mannequin actually does not have hands, so you could see how the neckline is looking. So like I said, if you want it wider, you can decide to use about 7 inches. This was actually 6 inches at the end of the day. So you see, okay, now let's go to the down part of our handkerchief flare. So you could see this is the short part of the handkerchief flare. That's the part that is in the center. So you see the back also is the short part that is also here. So the side, now I'm going to raise the side. So you see the way the side is looking. So you see that is where we have the drop. You know, I actually used added an extra 10 inches. So if you don't want yours to be long like this, you can decide to add maybe 5 inches. So at the end of the day, the dress actually came out fine. So thank you so much. If you find this video helpful, I would appreciate if you hit on the like button to make me know you appreciate what I did.